Actually horrible.
You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
All right, good evening. The time is now 6:30 p.m. I'm Chairman Mike Curry, and I'd like to call our Select Board Business Meeting to order on this 27th day of September 2023. Terry, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Aye.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Julie.
Before we begin, I'd like to state for the record that not only are we being streamed live on TCTV cable station 8 and our YouTube web platform, but this evening's recording will be available for later viewing on our YouTube channel. We in TCTV would be happy if you subscribe. If there are any of our audience members who are or plan to record video, please let us know. Okay. And I see Ryan is on the special guests, and we have our quorum as the full board is here. As always, our agenda for this evening is publicly available at the official source for town information, templetonma.gov. There you may sign up for alerts for all public meetings, as well as our town administrator's weekly report to the board. I would also encourage those listening who have not signed up for code red alerts to do so via our website, that's the primary, or you can call 866-939-0911, as this is the primary method for engaging with the public for important information. I also will add at templetonma.gov, if you navigate to our town, you can see meeting calendar, meeting minutes, and the full packet that the board has in preparation for our meetings is posted, and you can download it to look at it prior to. Although I have the discretion as chairperson to add and remove from the agenda, it has been set to allow for time, personnel resources, and public awareness. I reserve the right to move agenda items around to best fit our business and our guests. Excluding board minutes and comments, we have 11 items on our agenda this evening, with an estimated meeting time of about 2 hours, inclusive of an executive session. If this is your first select board meeting, we are glad that you joined us. We are proud to serve the community and will address tonight's business with patience, fairness, and efficiency. We would ask the same for our guests. Let's have a great meeting. Ryan is the only person on Zoom. So Ryan, before you came on, I said you should be commended for using your video button. When in the playback on the YouTube channel, you selectively unvideo at the most appropriate times for a full screen. So thanks for being Zoom proficient.
Hi. You're welcome. I didn't know I did that.
You did. A lot of us do rewatch the meetings, and they're riveting. Okay, on our agenda this evening, we've got one set of meeting minutes to review. You've got Wednesday, September 13 minutes in front of you. I do note that they are robust. I would start off with one amendment under the public hearing. I know it was presented as dangerous dog hearing per MGL 140, section 146. It is in fact section 157, as I further identified during the meeting, but I would like to make that amendment to the minutes. And that's on page 2. Are there any other observations?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So under the dangerous dog hearing documents on the last page, the dog photos submitted via email from Denise Cerati, those were not admitted. But
they were at the meeting.
they were at the meeting, but they weren't admitted. They weren't allowed to be admitted.
Right, but they're at the meeting, so they
Yep, documents presented at the meeting.
Provided, but they weren't admitted. How can they be? They were not.
Oh, I would just rather strike it.
Yeah, because we were told not to look at it.
Yep. I think it just, it removes any presence of doubt, whether
Yeah.
they were used, consumed, or otherwise, so I would like to strike that. Or I would agree to that amendment.
Deliberation.
Hmm?
It is in the deliberation. Photos handed in too late. After the public hearing closed, suggested to not use the third page of our draft.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But these are documents used section.
Well, the only thing I'm gonna state here is that in the hearing. Number 9, resident Sarati spoke that she submitted pictures of her dog's injuries. At the end of the meeting minutes, in our documents used, dangerous dog hearing documents provided at meeting, dog photos submitted via email by Dennis Sarati.
Denise.
So,
I understand what you're saying, so they
we're
were
gonna-
an item during the meeting, I
Right.
know that I actually referred to them and said,
Right.
flip them over. And then sought town council's use,
and
so
she said we,
let's keep it in there,
Yeah.
but it is further, as Tim pointed out, that it was
Not,
correct.
right, they
Yeah.
were submitted, but,
I think that's good
Yeah.
discourse,
okay,
so I think
thanks,
we leave it.
Holly.
So we're leaving that.
we're leaving it. Any other amendments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I move to approve the meeting minutes from from September 13th, 2023 as amended.
Second,
double second. Any further discussion? Any other observations? Hearing none on the vote to admit the meeting minutes of 9/13/23 as amended. The record, how would you vote, Matt?
Yes.
Terry?
yes,
Julie?
yes,
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Right, thank you for that. Item 4, citizen input. Under citizen input, I would just remind, our goal is for 3 minutes. Good evening. Hi, how you doing, Jeff?
Oh, wonderful, actually.
That's good.
Had a good day. Since Bob is here, I'd just like to publicly thank the Highway Department. At 2A and Partridgeville Road, there's been a pretty big sizable pothole side of the road. And it was just recently got patched. Really doesn't affect me much, but a lot of parents park there, drop their kids off to the bus or pick them up. So when they pull over there, they were hitting that big hill, so thank Bob and his crew for getting that done. I attended the advisory committee on September 20th. They discussed a transfer from the town's reserve fund. Town bylaw requires that requests for transfers from the reserve fund be done in a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. That's per the town bylaw. So that's another instance of a town board, the town officials violating town bylaws, which is not a good thing to be happening. Also, I would request, I'd like to know where I can find a copy of a plan per the current financial management policy for the use of free cash for fiscal 24. That's on page 8 of financial management plan. And it states, upon certification of town's free cash, the town administrator shall prepare a plan of its use to guide the expenditure of free cash. Shall do it. The current policy is 60% reserved for working capital, 15% general stabilization, 10% to capital stabilization, 10% to infrastructure stabilization, 5% transferred to capital. Free cash, according to the worksheet, was certified on September 18th, 9 days ago. So the current policy states that's what he's supposed to do upon certification. So I'm requesting where I can find a copy of that plan, not under proposed change, the current plan that he's supposed to do, because that's what the policy states. I looked on the website, I didn't see any. I don't know if he sent that out, but I would request a copy of that.
Okay.
And I know if the board changes the policy, then his plan would have to change, because if he made his plan under the proposed policy, it would look to me like decision had already been made, as if you had a meeting outside of the public realm, and this would just be a charade vote.
I'll work on that,
That's
Jeff.
how I see that.
Okay.
Also looking at the free cash, and this year there was a drop off, a big drop. And I noticed other receivables, overdrawn accounts and deficits is $55,900. How do we have so many overdrawn accounts and accounts with deficits when
Just as a FYI, that's a 3-minute. You keep going. I just want to let you know where.
under chapter 41, section 58, duties and notice appropriations, record of appropriations. Whenever an appropriation shall have been expended, or whenever in the judgment of the town accountant, it appears that liabilities incurred against any appropriation may be in excess of the unexpected balance, he shall immediately notify selectmen, board, committee, department heads, officers authorized to make expenditures therefrom, and no claim against such appropriation shall be allowed until, nor any further liability incurred until the town makes provision for its payment. It also says the town accountant shall, at regular intervals and at least once a month, send to the selectmen and to each board, committee, department head having disbursement appropriation, a statement of amount of orders approved and warrants drawn on behalf.
What was the number again, Jeff?
That is chapter 41, section 58.
Thank you.
And of note, fiscal 24, the town of Templeton appropriated $180,500 for the accountant office. The town of Ashburnham, who uses a CPA firm, fiscal 24 appropriated $119,035. And lastly, and I know you're discussing the warrant, and I assume you plan to vote on it. I would just like to make note of the fact that when the meals tax was passed back in 2018, it was presented to town meeting in the voter's guide under Article 22. The local option meals tax was created in the fall of 2009, et cetera. The DOR estimated Templeton would have almost $50,000 in revenue. If adopted, the Board of Selectmen intend to use this as a funding source to meet the town's many needs with respect to replace its rolling stock, cars, trucks, etc. It also says that in a flyer that you can still find on the town's website. There was an article to use the meals tax for a lease for a police cruiser and a highway 1-ton. That was the plan that was put forth, discussed at a selectmen's meeting, and it was put in front of town meeting. And they did it one time. We had a lease for a police cruiser and a lease for a 1-ton. And ever since then, after that, it has not been used. And in my view, that's another case of the select board taking something to town meeting votes it, appropriates money, and then something else is done with it. The money's either used for something else, or the policy, the thing just goes away.
What year and what meeting? I'm taking notes so I can help.
The meals tax?
That was
What year?
2009.
in the voters guide for 2018.
2018.
Yeah, I keep things like that.
ATM. I got them all on my shelf. ATM. Okay.
And
Thank you, Jeff.
so, again, one of these days, and maybe this year, because the schools, the way they've been eating a lot of things with one-time money, it's gonna come down that we really need to do something like an override or something. And when you continually ask town meeting and they vote for appropriations, and then money gets spent on something else, so that item doesn't even get bought. And there's a history of it in a record, and I could recite it right up top of my head. It doesn't bode well. So when you really need something, you go to them, they're gonna say, they pulled the wool over our eyes so many times, we just vote no, even though it would really be needed. It's a thing of trust. And the record says they vote this way, and it's gonna be, them selectmen, they did this, that. They didn't do it. They didn't do what we voted for. And that's a concern of mine. As someone who follows the meetings and goes to town meeting. So, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other citizen input? Hi, Candace.
Hi, I'm Candace Graves, 90 Queen Lake Road. I just want to say quickly that basketball in-person registration is on Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Gilman Waite Park in front of the concession stand area. It's grades kindergarten through 12th grade this year. We extended it to the high school level. So, yeah, so, and it's also Unipay is currently open, so they can also register on Unipay as well. But if they wanted to do it in person, I'll be there on Saturday morning at Gilman Waite, so.
Saturday morning.
The
Sep-
30th,
30th.
30th,
Got it.
yeah, 9 a.m. to 11 near the concession stand. If somebody wants to do in-person registration.
Great.
Otherwise, they can do Unipay online. At the town, you can go to the bill payer on town, go down to where it says Templeton Parks and Rec. You can type in on Unipay Templeton Parks and Rec Department, and then it'll bring it right up to our page that we
9
have,
to what and 5?
to 11.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
I do have one thing to add in citizen input. Couple months ago, Heather Viveros and Give to Goes came and applied for a permit to run a 5K. I thought it was a 5K, it turned out to be 5 miler. The plot thickens. So I did go to the 5 miler. I did run in the 5 miler, and unfortunately, Kevin DuPont's, she did want to do, she had given us the heads up that she wanted to do a presentation of a Purple Heart plaque for Kevin DuPont's Gold Star wife, Lisa. She was unfortunately, she could not be there, or I'm not sure how much it was done to work on that. However, she definitely wanted to be able to give it to the town to be able to for us to either hang on to, as they were both Templeton Reds. Lisa, you're off the. There we go. As they were both Templeton residents. And I know Kevin was originally from Chicopee, but this was.
That's beautiful.
It's a beautiful picture, and if you know Kevin at all, you look at that smile and you know right where it comes from. It's the kind of smile that says, do you really need to take that picture? But I wanted to be able to say that I did accept this on behalf of Templeton, and the plan is to get that to Kevin's Gold Star surviving wife, Lisa. But I wanted to be able to share that with everybody. It was kind of an emotional moment. That's all. Any other citizen input?
Real quick to piggyback on that, Mr. Chair, I know Heather's organization, these plaques are donated by an individual. And it's his give back to the community when he creates these. So that, again, the system is working the way it was intended.
We'll try and present it here until such time we can, if Lisa would accept on behalf of the town and give to those. And the gentleman, his name escapes me right now. We actually talked a lot about it. Any other citizen input? I feel like it took too much. Okay. Hearing no more citizen input, we're going to move into new business. Mr. Lamontagne, it looks like A and B, we've got no new employees and no appointments.
That is correct. Possibly at the next meeting, I'll coordinate with Candace. They have a couple new folks over there, so.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, moving into item C, this is action related to the dog order, which becomes the official dog order, as we had issued a interim dog order in the after the last dangerous dog hearing. So in your packet, and as I had pointed out a little bit earlier, if people are pulling down the materials for our meetings, the 3-page dog order is in there for your review. And that is up to the board to have it so ordered, and then it will be delivered to the parties named therein. So if you've had a chance to review it before, it does go through the complaint, the notice, the hearing. It does reference the correct Mass General Law, section 157, as I had earlier alluded to. It has findings, determination, which the board did vote to determine it, Bo being a nuisance dog, and therefore makes the orders that really went along with the discussion about containing the dog on the property, humanely restraining the dog, and then alluding to violations of the order in accordance with Templeton bylaws. It's 133 in subsection 133 6F. And the appeal authority for this is district court. I have that correct, Ryan. Appeal authority is Massachusetts District Court.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the dog order and for the chair to sign.
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to approve the dog order as presented and for the chair to sign. How do you vote, Matt?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
I will abstain from that.
Thank you. Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. It is so ordered. Okay, next on our agenda is action related to a town property use permit for the turkey trot. Hi, Graves fan.
Right, how do you want to do this?
You can just do it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Justice Graves, 90 Queen Lake Road, Templeton. Here, the resident speaking about the Gardner Turkey Trot, Green Club, the Gardner Track XC Booster Club. We are putting in an application to use the roads in town for the 44th Greater Gardner Turkey Trot. This is an annual tradition that's been going on between the town of Templeton and the city of Gardner, specifically the track and cross-country teams. It is a great 5-mile race, run and walk. And any of the all the proceeds from the race go towards, they're split evenly between the Gardner cross-country team and the Narragansett cross-country team. And we do, and Gardner's cross-country team members do participate through the club and volunteering for the race on the Gardner side in front of City Hall. And then on the Narragansett side, the Narragansett cross-country runners do volunteer on the Narragansett side as well in Templeton. You'll see before you that since Narragansett is the school district of the town, the regional school district of the town, and since many of the cross-country members are members of the town, that we ask that any associated fees for the permit be waived this evening, and on the submission of our insurance liability forms, that we would be able to run this 44 race account.
Thank you for that presentation. I saw on the letter requesting that it's a 501c3.
Yeah.
And it's active.
Yes.
Okay. And I would agree with your assessment that if it's benefiting both Gardner and Narragansett cross-country teams equally, that there is benefit to the town. Does anyone disagree with that?
Nope.
No.
Fine. Then I would agree with the request to waive the fee. For it to be classified, so Polly, then it would be classified as town sponsored.
Yes.
So I would either, if you are there any other questions, or I'd entertain the motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the town property use permit application for the 44th Greater Gardner Turkey Trot on November 23rd, 2023, and to classify it as town sponsored.
Second.
You guys are good at the double seconds tonight.
We're trying. here.
Double it up today.
Yeah. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
It doesn't need to say subject to insurance. So,
But he basically, sir, yeah.
Right.
Anything further? Okay. Hearing nothing else. On the motion to approve the town property use permit for the Turkey Trot and to designate it as a town sponsored event, how would you vote, Matt?
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Tim? Yes. And I vote yes as well.
And thank you.
Great.
Just
5 mile.
5 miles.
Mile,
Mile.
not kilometer.
One city to one town.
Did you see me out there struggling?
Oh, and by the way, this year, you can choose your color. Are you gonna be blue for Gansett, or are you gonna be flashing, blue and white? Or are you gonna be orange and black?
That's obvious.
You guys were very thorough on the paperwork. Good job.
I graduate.
Sue, you.
Transplant for the town. I know.
Okay, next item on our agenda. Next item on our agenda this evening is action related to town property use permit for the Templeton Lion Club Pumpkin Patch event. Yes. Good evening, Sue.
Good evening. Sue Larrabee representing the Templeton Town Lions Club. We are requesting permission for the property adjacent to the gazebo, that common area, to be able to spread out our pumpkins and have the kids come by and pick them up. The date scheduled is the 17th of October with a rain date of the 18th. Typically, we start putting the pumpkins out between 8 and 8:30, and the kids are scheduled to come by around 9:30. The school has told us that they'll have, I think, 4 groups of kids coming by. It's going to be a total of, they have a total of 611 children, but the pre-K kids do not participate. We bring the pumpkins to the school because they come at different days, and the teachers disperse the pumpkins to the preschool kids. So we have about 528 kids that would be coming through with teachers, accompanied by teachers from beginning to end. They'd be coming about every 20 minutes, which they say 20 minutes, it's really more like a half an hour. By the time the kids get there and get off the property and then get headed back to school. So I've submitted the request along with the a map of the of their travel to and from the school, and the certificate of insurance liability from the Lions Club. And I would also ask for that, for the any fees to be waived as well for this particular event. We don't collect any money for the pumpkins. We get all that money out of our funding from Christmas tree sales and golf tournaments and meat raffles, things of that nature.
And it's been demonstrated before that you're an active 501c3
Yes.
and that it is clearly benefiting the town.
Mhm.
Kids, how many years in a row have you done this?
Oh, God.
Easily. My kids.
I like.
Way long ago. I want to say we have members in our club that are in their 50s and they did it as kids. I wasn't. You, okay, you? And you enjoyed it too?
Sure. Was
Right.
that when it was Neil?
Forties.
Let's go 40s.
That was probably, it started out at Floyd Ryder's farm up on the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, and I don't recall why it switched over. When my husband joined the club, it was at Floyd Ryder's. And then it switched over to the field by Roland Leclerc's.
Yeah.
And we planted pumpkins for years and got wiped out for years between, the weather and,
Oh.
and, and the deer eating them. So we kind of gave up on that about 6 years ago and we
Yeah.
started buying
I was
them.
wondering, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're not cheap.
No, when you said 600, I was thinking,
Yeah, it's
geez,
about
that's pretty,
$1,300 worth of
big
pumpkins.
bill.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the town property use permit application for the Templeton Lions Club pumpkin patch and to waive the fees.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a pain here and and maybe Holly will be able to stop me. But I'm looking at page 2 of the application. And maybe the one that Holly has is different, but there's a lot of stuff on page 2 that were not filled in. And I can glean the answers, but I just want to make sure that we have this fully filled out and clear before we're submitting it. You're not having food vendors because you then aid the box for no, there's a list, no list of food vendors attached.
Correct.
Are you using any tents?
No.
Okay,
The problem is with this form, you can't, there's a few sections that, for instance, on the first page, if I unclick alcohol, because we're not having any alcohol,
okay.
everything.
This is
else
another
goes.
question.
Oh, golly.
Okay,
So, Holly and I talked about this,
Okay.
so she's working on it.
okay.
So there's a
Um,
few spots where, in fact, I couldn't unclick.
Yep.
The food thing, that's why I
Yep.
put NA. in.
And that's why, and that's honestly why I'm just running down it real
Yeah.
quick to make sure.
Right.
You don't need electrical hookups.
No.
You're not running a portable toilet?
No.
No. Obviously, you just said no alcohol.
Yeah.
You don't need bicycle parking. You have an NA for a satellite parking location.
No.
You have NA the additional handicap parking. You don't require a road closure.
Right.
Okay. And you attach the route map, so, okay, that's what I wanted to have clear, that I wanted to have
No,
answered. Yep.
I appreciate you asking those
Nope,
questions.
not a problem.
You're paying attention.
Yep, no, I just wanted to make sure. I'm fine. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none on the action or the motion to approve the town property use permit for the Templeton Lions Club pumpkin patch and to be classified as a town sponsored event. How do you vote, Matt?
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Thank you. Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.
Thank you, the Lions Club, for what you do. It's
Happy picking.
a wonderful thing. And I know the kids appreciate it.
And Holly, I'll let you know what the actual date is when we get closer with the weather.
Okay.
And we know whether it's the 18th or the 19th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along, item F, action related to unregistered motor vehicle permit. Okay.
So the property owner is not here. So I would suggest we put this off to the next meeting. It's Mr. Arthur Conrad, 69 Brooks Road. And he got the letter that I put in the packet from
Got
the
it.
police department.
Okay.
And he was
Mr. Chair?
supposed to be
Yeah.
here.
I would move that we table this item to the meeting of October 11th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none on the motion to table the unregistered motor vehicle permit to the next, that's the next. meeting, right?
That is the next meeting, yes, if I'm counting it off correctly.
Okay. How do you vote, Matt?
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Julie?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Item G, action related to updated amendment 4 to the updated financial management policy. As Adam activates his microphone.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. We have this adjustment to our policies. Right now, we're sitting at 1.54 million roughly of in our OpEx stabilization account. Huge thing for the town. We're very fortunate that we got to this level as fast as we did. This also went in front, this document, obviously, we've seen this come in front of the board. We put so much into our reserves, especially the OpEx stabilization in the last years since or last 3 years or so since I've been the town administrator. And we built it up to a healthy level. So we've hit our 8% of our target when we first adopted these way back when. This went to the advisory committee for a recommendation, and the advisory committee recommended to the select board unanimously for this recommendation. I think it shows how far we've come financially as a community, and we're very fortunate that we're here today to update our policies. And this is certainly something that I'm proud of, and as well as taking over after Mr. Terenzini, who's done so much to get us on the right path financially, but to carry that moving forward as well. So you just have your proposed.
Adam, could you walk us through it?
Sure. Under the updated amendment number 4 to the updated financial management policy, page 1, you see pretty much everything stays the same. The only change would be the town administrator shall make contributions to the following funds by percentages indicated. Then the change would be after subtracting unanticipated expenditures and deficits, i.e. snow and ice. And end there. Proceed to the next page. We would strike 60% and increase that to 67.5% reserved for working capital and other town needs. We'd strike the 15%. And we would still continue to put into the general stabilization fund, also known as our OPEX, at 7.5%. Next page, please. And then on the top part of this, actually at the bottom of the last page, I told you to move over. I'm looking at striking that. The town will strive to appropriate 0.5% of prior year's omnibus operating budget toward the general stabilization fund each year until the target is reached. Mr. Revard spoke to me before the meeting. He has a proposed to change this that I don't object to. And then you have your language within the policy under B2C for our infrastructure stabilization policy, which would read under 1, the town shall maintain a special purpose infrastructure stabilization fund that shall serve as a funding source for the town's road improvement plan and other related infrastructure improvements. 2, the town shall have a goal to maintain an infrastructure stabilization fund equal to 2% of the prior year's omnibus operating budget. And 3, the funds shall be used for lawful purposes to improve our infrastructure. And at this point, we have roughly 115K in our infrastructure stabilization fund from when we first created it. So good things coming. Those are my proposed changes. And I hope the board will update those this evening, and then I could send off to Mr. Bennett his updated free cash thing he wanted. And that's all I got.
Adam, you said that all of the proposed changes were approved by the advisory committee, correct?
Correct, unanimously to the select. I wanted them to take as the finance folks of the town before I brought it to the select board, but the select board are policy making body, so. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Any questions for Adam?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, when reading this, I go to B2A general stabilization policy, the text that you are proposing to strike out. While I understand why you're proposing to strike it, I am going to propose that we retain it. And the reason being that it states here, the town will strive to appropriate 0.5% of the prior year's omnibus operating budget toward the general stabilization fund each year until the target is reached, the target being the 8%. Striking that language leaves us with no check against using that stabilization fund down and then replenishing it. I believe that leaving that text in there is good for us as a governing body to say that, okay, if we use that money, we must at some point replenish it over the course of time. So I am going to propose that we retain that language rather than striking it. Okay.
I would agree with that. I was wondering how that was going to play out.
The way that I read it, it doesn't hurt us any by leaving it there. Because if we're above the 8% target, then we don't have to, then we're not forced to appropriating 0.5% of the omnibus operating budget toward that fund. Okay, if we're below the 8% target, then it's our check to say we need to get there.
Good problem solving.
Yeah. And the other item that I'm going to propose as well here, in your new proposed language, B2C infrastructure stabilization policy, item 1. I'm going to propose this. The town shall maintain a special purpose infrastructure stabilization fund that shall serve as a funding source for the town's road improvement plan and other related infrastructure improvements, adding the following language, including appraisals, title work, etc. for road improvements. I honestly think that it's covered in saying in other related infrastructure improvements, but I think this is a good spell out of things that can be done with with this particular fund.
I believe that's a friendly amendment, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Anything else?
That's a good placement for that.
Any other discussion? Yep, is the board good? Go ahead, Jeff. You want to do?
I just have a question. I have the same question for the Board of Selectmen as I had for the advisory committee. Why does the town administrator need an extra 7.5% of free cash to use for whatever? To follow up with Mr. Ravat said, if you're gonna put less in the general stabilization fund, why not build up the capital stabilization and the infrastructure stabilization by increasing those percentages? Using the percent that you're taking from general stabilization, that would be 7.5%. Because you can see that free cash that we've been pretty dependent on to buy a lot of capital stuff is down significantly this year. And if you look at the long-term trend, the history of the free cash, it has been on a slight downward angle. So how do you, giving someone more money, these are my words, my view, how I look at it, play with. And to use more money to support the general fund, which goes against the recommendations of the DOR and what's stated in your financial management policy. I know there's a line in there for wiggle room, but if you want to be able to buy things, and the police chief is a perfect example of this, Mike Bennett, he came before the board a few months back. And he stated his maintenance budget had gone down when he started getting new cruisers and getting rid of those old ones. You don't need to keep 9 cruisers on and, the middle of a shift. Hey, car 4 broke down, bring out 5. Number 5 just broke down, bring out number 6. He doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And he said he had his maintenance budget is down because he was buying those cruisers. The capital stabilization fund is there as a funding source. If the policy says the primary, the first go-to buy capital things.
Yeah.
So if you want to put less money in the general stabilization fund, because that is a fund that, while it's important to build it up, we use it very little. We that should be a last resort to hit it.
Right.
So we should be I think we should be putting more money, be better for the town, better for planning purposes. To increase the amount of money you're putting in the capital and the infrastructure stabilization funds. I mean, right now, Mr. Solzek, what he's doing the road, he's putting a Band-Aid on it. He's paving it. He doesn't have the money to put the drainage in, even though I'm sure he knows and would say that's should be the important thing, the first step you do. I mean, water mains need to be replaced in this town because they're old. And drainage and sidewalks are important. And if you have them, people use them. You just look at the Ballinville Road sidewalk when they went from Ballinville to Templeton Center. There's all kind of people out there walking and using it. You don't have to walk in the road the way people drive today. And I don't see how we're gonna get to that point and have the funding if we keep taking away from the source or one dependable source or the source we've been using, main source, to fund these stabilization funds. And when you're gonna give it to the town administrator just look at the history of the budgets, town meetings, using more and more free cash to back up the general fund budget. So again, my question is, why does he need 7.5% more money? When we had 50% and that was working, then we went to 60. Now it's 67. What's it gonna be next year? I need 75. Just doesn't bode well for the financial plan that's outlined in the policy. And to Mr. Ravat's point that he made about, having a target, keeping that in place, kind of gets you on the tracks. You got a curve left and right. Stay there. My 2 cents. Thanks for the time. Of course.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, it's very clearly, I think, and when I pull out the sheets and as you've seen in your budget book, we've put a significant amount into our reserves. I mean, we put, to the point where we are very healthy, at least at this point with the general stabilization fund. I don't want to get sidetracked. The same argument was made to the advisory committee that recommended the change anyways. So I really wanted to stay focused, even with this 67.5%. Between all the stabilization funds and the OPEB reserve, we're still putting 32.5% of our money into reserve accounts. I don't want the impression being out there that we're not. It's very clear that we're still being conservative. We're still being financially prudent. We're still being taking all the right steps. But when we reach a target, that's the time to adjust appropriately. And remember, all these items, working capital, other town needs, all that's go to town meeting for approval. It's not Adams, what was said, Adams slush fund. No, that all goes to town meeting to get decided and voted on by the townspeople. Ultimately, they have the final say in all these, not Adam. Adam could recommend to the select board, and then the select board takes it to the town meeting. So I want to make it clear, town meeting has to vote on all those if they're proposed by the department heads, and I bring it to the board, but the final say still goes to town meeting. Thank you.
Any other questions or rebuttal for that?
I just have a comment on the top in the new set of figures, the bold print 7.5% transfer to general stabilization. But we look at B2A general stabilization policy, the target is not less than 8%. Those numbers don't agree. We're off by 0.5%.
I think, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
There was some confusion, I think, at the advisory meeting before, the same thing was being discussed. The 8% is the target, so you take your full budget
Balance.
and you take 8% of that. And then that comes to, if you take your current year budget, for example, you took 8% of your current year budget, which is higher than your other budget, prior year budget. It comes to be about 1.51 million, 8%. And then that's separate from the 7.5%. I just want to clarify, because there was some confusion at advisory, not the last meeting, but the meeting before, on the 7.5 and the 8. The 8's the target number. The 7.5 is what we're contributing. We've hit the 8%. So I just wanted to add that clarification, because I explained it to Mr. Kaplis as well after his meeting.
The fund itself has to have 8% of the current year's operating budget in it as a target. Okay, the 7.5% is just what we're proposing to put in based on out of our free cash on an annual basis, out of our certified free cash.
I understand that, but if we're gonna target and say it will be 8.8% of the previous year, it should be 8% at the top. I have to agree with advisory when they were confused on this as well.
Then I would, if that's the case, if we want those numbers to align, I would suggest a simple amendment to make instead of 67.5%, I would say 67.0%, and I would instead of saying 7.5% for the general stabilization fund, I would say 8. And
No, I was just gonna ask Adam how that helped him do his job, but Matt, I think I like Matt's recommendation. I mean, I thought target was used loosely, but I think it can also be used tightly as far as.
It may help avoid confusion too, so I have no problem with it.
It's removing ambiguity.
no, it's agreed. Agreed.
So 67% for working
And-
capital or town needs, 8%. Mr. Rivard suggested, I have no problem with that.
I'd like to comment on Adam's statement that, town meeting.
Remember your comments, you're a long way from microphones. So you don't get able to hear.
So I'll just say really quick that his comment about town meetings has the ability to be able to change the numbers. He's absolutely accurate. Most of the time, most people go to town meeting, assuming that everything that they are being presented is correct, accurate, and okay, yes. And they're basically saying whatever everyone is already recommending. So I think my personal belief is a more prudent set of numbers is more in alignment, even though, yes, town meeting can change something.
Is there a strategy behind the change? Was it thought this, was there a strategy? Is there a strategy?
If I can, Mr. Chair.
Of course.
The goal here is to, when all policies over time, we have other policies that need to be updated as well. Need to be updated to reflect of where we are today. And so that's why you see this one so often, because we're hitting targets that way earlier than anticipated when we originally adopted the policy. I think it's a good thing we're discussing whether we agree to every single thing, every single change I propose. But that's why we have this discussion, because the select board ultimately are the policy makers. So I have no problems with what was suggested with Mr. Revard's amendments. I think it's fair. I think it aligns with what advisory was looking at as well. So that's all I really have. If that answers your question, do it want further clarification or?
I think that's good. Is there, just let me think for a minute, but
Okay. You know, part of that, you know, and, you know, Jeff kind of teed up some of the discussion along with it during his citizen input. You know, Jeff has a lot of voice during this because he shows up to, I don't think I remember any town meetings he hasn't gone to, or some meetings that he goes to. So he's a voice in this because he's a resident and he's got some experience. I would agree with him in terms of our revenue is changing. And I saw that years ago and would defend the fact that we had higher free cash numbers, and the way that we funded capital was different than the way it's changing now. I agree with changing policy to either catch up with it or predict it. So in this case, you know, as the free cash numbers came out, I'd like to attribute to, you know, I could go through the spreadsheet and come up with, you know, Jeff was talking about over expenditures or otherwise. I know that our channeling a little bit of Tony DeJoy here, but like in terms of spend plan and execution, we are getting better budgeting there, and we're getting better at execution rates. If we have better execution rates, then it is difficult, as people who might not like to see how this changes when we have targets for how much free cash comes back out. It's a balancing act. And so when you ask that question, I think that was a great question that you asked, is what is the strategy? It's trying to understand all of these changing numbers and trend lines. But I will say our higher execution is attributed to our I'm saying it publicly, almost streamlined budget processes where we're getting good, we're getting good at communication, we're getting good at forming questions, having the public aware of the numbers before town meeting to make the correct kind of amendments. But our execution rates are getting higher, and we may have to live, and I completely agree with Jeff saying we should be able to pay for our capital things in a better way, like outright. You know, a lot of discussion about leases last year. I'd rather have enough money in the bank to be able to take care of these needs. You know, we've got a grant writer now to be able to kind of leverage. That was not a funding stream. We were all putting it on department heads. What are you doing? What are you doing to, you know, to get this stuff? You know, 10 bags and 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag, right, Bob?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if policy is going to help us through this by adjusting some of these numbers, I agree. I think we just need to be mindful of what the, you know, execution rates didn't change overnight. You know, this was an overall, you know, glide path to be able to get to the place. If these numbers, if the board in deliberation tonight and, you know, the prior deliberation of the advisory committee believe that this is the right recipe or formula to be able to correctly fund the government and correctly address capital needs, then so be it.
another question.
Go ahead.
So Jeff, can I ask you a question? So what you're saying is we need to pay for things. This, as it currently is working toward that goal to pay for the things we want at a better execution rate than what we're proposing? Which execution rate of percentages is going to get us home? Is going to take us home where we have the capital to say, we're gonna pay for cash for this. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. That's a tough one. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm answering your question intended for you. So you're talking about execution ratio, pulling out the BVA and looking at line items, looking at DPW, looking at, did we expend all $500 targeted for supplies or all? So all of those accounts historically have not been high execution rates. So Tony DeJoy and I, having federal budget training, we looked at this and said, we need better spend plans. We need better guidance. We need better understanding of how to ask questions to sit in the room and say to the department head, what if you did it this way? What if you, how many, what are the on-call workers that we have in emergency services, the hours, the float hours? How can you better leverage those? That's a tough one. I mean, I'll throw it back to you, Jeff, if you want to speak to execution, but how do you get better? Like, how do you spend the money that you say that you need, but at the same time under execute, knowing that's going to give you more money to be able to get the bigger things that Bob needs. 7-ton dump bodies are not cheap.
Right?
I would just say, when you talk about execution rates getting better is why we have 674,000 in free cash versus last year's 1.1 million. You go back and look at the history of the town. I'll go back to starting at 2005 till present. Except for 2006. 99% sure. Yeah. We had like a million plus in free cash. Historically, it's been in the 6-figure range, 500 something thousand, 600 something thousand. 2012 was $100,000 free cash. It ended up being, that's in the audit report, and free cash historical sheets. If you go on the DLS website, it must have been great execution and great planning back then. 15 was not so good. There was a $29,000 deficit in free cash. That means spent something that you didn't have the money for, and
I don't think it was certified.
they took it out of free cash, and it was not enough free cash to cover it, so you had a deficit. So 674 is actually getting back to what the town historically generated over the years. So, and I would say, well, we'd have to wait. I like 3 years worth of records to see where we're gonna be, so we'll see what we're at next year. But I just watched the BVAs, which that's why it's important for, I want to see copies of them, and that's why I have asked even the advisory committee, when they have them, if they could get it on the website, some page, someplace. So you can track during the year, and you should be able to see
I agree.
through the year, we're on track to have, this, and where free cash will probably be around this. I thought free cash back in, I was talking with another resident, and I was thinking it was gonna be around 700 grand. That's, he thought it was gonna be a little lower. But, so historically, we've been around 580, 600 something thousand. So actually, we're just 19, I think we got high in the millions, and then it's been going down, and I think this is like reality is where I think we'll be for a while.
So we need bulletproof formulas to be able to shore up these accounts. So I probably wouldn't have, I would have either tried to table this, or I wouldn't have agreed with it. But now I think some of the discussion that we've had and trying to tweak it a little bit, I feel better about it.
I don't want to change
that's how-
policy just for changing policy's sake. It's time. And I do trust Adam. He's forward thinking and he does a good job.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
Chair, if I give my 2 cents, like Jeff said, for a small department like the police department, well, 6 or 8 cruisers, cars, it's working on saving on maintenance. When I first started, like I said this several times, we're close to 700,000 in capital, and things started out with a bang and looking good. And it's gone backwards since. The problem is that the two bigger trucks that I purchased, the times I get trucked, we're gonna be back in the old same run. Starting all over with junk. And I'm wasting thousands and thousands of dollars in two of these trucks that it's disgusting, wasting the town's money, but we gotta have vehicles to plow. They're not as safe as the newer ones, hard to get parts for, the tire, everything's mongrel, and that guy could go overseas and get some of the parts. So now we're buying stuff back that we're going backwards. We need to focus on building a capital back up, taking care of the town's needs and departments, and then I'm all for whatever you want to do, but every year I keep saying this, it's just a big circle.
Yeah.
And it's very discouraging.
Life cycle management is very difficult with high dollar figures.
Nothing's getting cheaper.
Yep, go ahead.
Just ask two questions. One, in the budgeting process, right? When the department heads put forth their budget, do they give you a prioritized list of things of P0 I gotta have, P1s are, it'd be really good to have, P2s are, nice to have.
Capital.
Across their entire budget. So that way you see, and the reason I'm asking this question is because you can see what things, right, because last year went through the budget process, a department head said, hey, I need 4 more people. A month after going through the budget, that wasn't in the budget, wasn't asked for in the budget. And so, your wish list of everything, right? That highlights those things that are absolutely critical. And I don't care if it's the capital or anything else. And, and then for your spend plan, you talked about your spend plan, and you're saying you spend $100 this month and $300 this month and $400. Is that what you're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Which the accountant has a good has a good understanding on, because there are certain times of, not everything
Yeah.
is executed in equal amounts throughout the year. But to answer your question in terms of priority, otherwise, what I have seen Adam do since he has given budget guidance to the department heads is to help them through that, to say, we're not going to know what you need unless you're able to say what your requirements are. I'm not sure if he uses the word priority or otherwise, but I know that he uses, if you don't tell me what your requirements are, then we can't forecast it or budget it or understand what what the severity is of your requirement. So I can say that we do have those discussions. And fire being probably one of the biggest examples, because that's one of the biggest, gaps of, we need this amount of service, but we, again, 10 pounds in the 5 pound bag. Any other discussion? Questions?
Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to approve the updated amendment number 4 to the updated financial management policy as written with amendments. Do I need to list them all, or have I covered them all at this point? I can, it's not a problem.
You took out the strike.
So here, I'll
Yeah,
list it.
go ahead.
On the second page, the percentage for reserved for working capital and other town needs will be 67%. The percentage transferred to the general stabilization fund will be 8%. Under B2A, general stabilization policy, the text that is in this draft stricken will be retained, stating the town will strive to appropriate 0.5% of the prior year's omnibus operating budget toward the general stabilization fund each year until the target is reached. And finally, in B2C, infrastructural stabilization policy, item 1 will read, the town shall maintain a special purpose infrastructure stabilization fund that shall serve as a funding source for the town's road improvement plan and other related infrastructure improvements, including appraisals, title work, etc., for road improvements.
And a motion.
Second that motion,
Okay.
but I have a question.
Is there any discussion?
So on the the strike through, the town will strive to appropriate 0.5% of the prior year's omnibus operating budget toward the general stabilization fund each year until the target is reached and maintain 8%. And maintain 8%.
I think it's a their part.
It says target.
Shall, it's a shall.
Of not less than 8%. So that, I believe that implies maintaining.
Like a circular reference.
Yeah.
That's what Matt was pointing out, is that it's a circular reference.
Yeah.
You're striving for 8%. And then
Stay there.
and then the 0.5 is this is how we're gonna do it.
As long, if you go under the 8%, yes, we have to appropriate the 0.5 immediately to get, until we get back up to the 8%.
That's your stock draft, that's
Right. Right now, we don't need to do that because we have more than 8% of our general operating fund in that account. So that clause would not apply right now. If we ever go below that, having 8% in that fund, then that clause would apply and we'd have to push that.
So there are circumstances.
That's correct. That's the reason I want to keep it.
That we're not gonna
You would
talk
vote,
about tonight.
if you're voting. to
Yeah,
use
okay.
it,
Yeah,
Because we're not gonna go below.
right.
Okay.
We work too hard
We would
to get
strive
where
not to
we're
go
at now.
below, but again, like I said, it's a check for us so that we
Check and
can,
balance.
correct.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to approve the updated amendment 4 to the updated financial management policy as amended. How would you vote, Matt?
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Tim,
yes.
I vote yes. Next item on the agenda is action related to HVAC upgrades award.
We finally did it. I was getting tired of looking at HVAC plans and putting them out to bid.
Can't imagine why.
So on this one, Guardian Energy Management Solutions was the apparent lowest bidder at $274,959. And we also had Royal Steam Heater Company bid $326,000. So I respectfully asked the board to award it to the apparent lowest bidder. Guardian Energy Management Solutions of $274,959 up to $300,000. And to have me sign any related documents or change orders. I'm saying 300,000 because we have the 275,000 that the select board approved out of ARPA, and we have a little over 25K in the police station building account. So the funds are available.
Right, that they've designated towards this as necessary.
And then we can finally get this thing done.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just have a quick question.
Okay.
So is that 25,000 a buffer? If something goes wrong in this 190-year-old building they restored? What is the 25,000 floating around for? Why are we not paying the lowest bidder, 274,959? That's my only question.
And
We are.
We are, but then
Correct.
it's a buffer and we're using the other
We
funding.
get change
for-
orders all the time. I would, I would agree with you that it's a higher
Or whatever.
percentage,
Okay,
but because of what. Because
a
of
lot
the
of money
difficulty
for an
in the
HVAC.
churn that we've had with HVAC, that I think I would agree that a higher percentage should
Covers
be,
the whole
right.
project. Okay,
Correct.
Yeah.
thank you.
And the
And
other
then
thing
that
is-
way I don't come back to the board.
The
Yeah,
appropriate,
we don't want to hear
Yeah, the
the
other-
appropriation is there. He's basically just saying, I would like
wiggle room
permission to use the entire appropriation based on
if needed.
change order history.
Okay.
And I
Thank you for
believe,
the clarification.
and I believe also, Billy, that that $25,000 extra is budgeted in the police department budget for
It's
this
already
exact
in
purpose.
my-
It's already sitting
okay.
there, yeah,
Got it.
as the uh-oh fund. For lack of a better term.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
I don't think we have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to award the contract for the HVAC renovations at the police station to the apparent low bidder Guardian Energy Management Solutions of $274,959 up to $300,000, and to have the town administrator sign any related documents.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just have a question for the TA, if I may. Do we have an anticipated start date for the project?
We have not entered into the contract at this point because bid hasn't been awarded.
I'm just concerned on that because we know what the cost of procrastination and in today's world with supply issues and everything else, that delays end up costing us in the long run.
I will follow up with them to see the dates that work best, and if they could schedule us in, so there's no delay.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Tim. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none on the motion to award the HVAC renovation to the police station to the parent mode bill bidder, Guardian Energy Management Solutions, and to have the town administrator sign any related documents. How would you vote, Matt?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay. Next item is action related to the wellness grant application. Hi, Jackie.
Hi. Okay, well, this grant was brought to my attention last winter, but we missed the application deadline. And the new application wasn't submitted or released to us until July, so I had to wait for that application. I filled that one out and we decided this is what the grant's for. The wellness grant provides Maya Health Trust members with resources for creating and maintaining a workplace that improves employees' well-being. So I filled out that application and we decided to use that money towards a kitchenette upgrade in the town hall here. I mean, mainly just running filtered water and ice maker. We don't even have that available in town hall. And that's pretty much what the application says, and it's in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course. For those wondering why Jackie's presenting, not the grant writer, they were already working on this prior to the grant writer starting, so I just want to clarify that for the viewing public as well as the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to approve the wellness grant application and to have the town administrator's office submit the application as written.
Right, I have a motion
Second.
and a second.
And thank you, Jackie, for all your work on that.
Well,
Discussion.
Good job. I just had one.
Mr. Chair. Quick question
Could I
on
go
that grant, are there, I'm sorry.
through the board stuff first? Yeah.
Under 3, how many people will you reach and how will you ensure that number or more is sustainable? The second sentence, we hold frequent meeting weekly, was a little awkward to me. I know it's just a minor glitch. I just, I wrote, in the town of Templeton offices, there are about 20 full and part-time employees in the building every day. We hold a variety of weekly meetings utilizing our conference room and throughout the building. That's my change. And then I got a little creative, but I didn't know it was just to benefit. I added. It'd be nice to have filtered water available for our employees and to offer to anyone in need. Some days there can be between 50 and 60 full and part-time employees, as well as representatives from other cities, towns, or organizations. Templeton, and I kept the last sentence pretty much the same. Templeton Town Hall can be very active with many town employees and others coming in and out all day.
Mr. Chairman,
Can you read the first part of that again? We're changing the application.
are we changing the application we want to submit? I just made a motion to submit an application that's
She's
already
proposed-
completed. So I got confused on
Okay,
that.
could we clarify that? Is the application that's already been submitted?
Not submitted, but
Well, it's
written.
it's put together. It's just
It's
we're
put together.
we're waiting for approval because it's over 5,000.
Okay,
So I
so
can't approve. That's to the board.
Terry read it and now she's asking for an amendment.
Just to be,
She's
An
asking
amendment
for-
or to change up the application that's already.
I don't know. I
been
asked her to
written.
reread it again.
Okay.
just one.
Just-
I
second.
just got.
just one section, not the whole thing. It just
Number
was,
3.
we hold frequent meeting weekly. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that should be
Frequent meeting
clarified.
weekly, frequent meeting weekly. I mean, it's a little.
Frequent meetings.
Meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, Okay, so
That's
then
item
do that. That's, I just brought it before the board. It just sounded awkward to me.
Yeah, I mean, we could,
You don't have to, I don't have to submit this. I brought it up and I wanted the board.
Right, no, I'm confused on the way it's starting to
Yeah,
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 read.
I get it.
Because I was like.
Yeah,
oh,
she said to write it up. but that's
Changing
like-
the actual.
I had the
application.
same,
Yeah.
I had the same interpretation, but I needed, that's why I needed her to read it again, because I
Okay,
heard the same thing.
okay.
So our
So frequent
meetings, plural,
meetings, okay. I put weekly meetings. You could just put frequent weekly meetings or meetings weekly.
They have daily meetings in town hall.
Just the way it was. It needs an S in.
It needs to be pluralized.
but that was it.
Yeah, that was the only thing. It just sounded awkward. We hold frequent meeting weekly, meeting.
Yeah.
Frequent meeting weekly, just in
Plural meetings.
And nothing else.
Typo.
no,
Okay,
you don't have to have an.
I didn't know if you had it, because you had a lot of writing there, and as you read it, I heard other things within it. I just wanted to give you the chance to be able to.
Terry, I'll double check it before it's submitted.
Holly,
I just have to ask, because I'm a little confused. When we bring grants, aren't we just, the board's just approving that, sure, this is okay to put in. We're gonna change people's work. I mean, are we gonna do that to the grant writer?
no,
when
I
every grant
wanted,
comes?
I wanted Terry the opportunity to ask a question about the language used.
So you're saying leave,
So this is more than an
I'm saying
administration thing to
awkward.
say it was.
Yeah, I'm saying they're doing their work. The grant writer's gonna do her work. And they're gonna say, can we submit this? And the board's supposed to just approve submitting it.
Correct.
I didn't think they were changing people's work.
Okay,
I mean,
It's not gonna get you the grant because it's not correct. Like,
Yes,
you
right.
talk to the
we
grant.
had something. Just wanted to make sure that-
Sorry.
So that was not the intent. I was actually, I gave her the opportunity to be able to ask questions. And it was more of a typo or just wording.
we're signing
So-
off on it.
No,
I want to see
I
win-win.
understand that. I just. It seems like we're correcting someone's work and changing.
You don't think
way
it's
it's
She
written.
awkward?
just pointed it out.
It was just a typo. We'll fix it.
No,
I'll
I
take my
thought you were
notes.
suggesting
It's
we
fine.
voted to change it to a certain wording.
Before, Jeff,
Is there any matching funds involved or is just this a straight up grant?
Just a grant.
Just so there's no, the town doesn't have to
Nope.
put up any money, okay,
Nope.
that's always the detail there.
Well, it is reimbursable. I mean, we spend it and they reimburse, but
okay, thanks, Jeff. Tim.
Yeah, just to make this a friendly amendment and change, I think the intent is to make sure we don't get the little minor nuances, the grammatical errors, et cetera, to become the reason for a rejection. If we can catch this and add the S that's missing. And not give them a reason to say, oh, they misspelled the word, we're not giving it to them.
right.
So I think that was the spirit and intent.
I see your point. I just wasn't, I was confused with the way it was being presented.
Yeah, it started to morph a little bit and Julie highlighted that, but that was not the intent after all. After the discussion. Is there any other discussion?
No, I don't think I need to submit anything. It's-
No. Nope, you don't. Okay,
I thought it was a good job.
so I had a motion and it was seconded. Any other further discussion?
As amended.
It's not amended, it's you're pointing out a typo.
Okay,
Or is that before they submit?
all right, I get it. I get it.
Grammar.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, hearing nothing else on the motion to approve the wellness grant application, we have the town administrator's office submit the application as written. How would you vote now?
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Okay. Next item up is action related to the FY 24 Community Compact IT Grant. Ms. Curry.
Grant writer.
You could,
So just as it appears on the memo on September 19th, I submitted an IT grant application to the Community Compact or Community Compact Cabinet. Requesting $43,500 for the purchase of e-permitting software. For the Development Services Office. And I would ask that you would, if that money is awarded, that you would accept it.
We note in here that in the memo, it does say this is another one, there's no local match required here, so this is just, here's $43,500, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve and accept should the grant be awarded.
Seconded.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. On the motion for the FY 24 Community Compact IT Grant, how would you vote? Matt,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes,
Julie,
Yes.
Tim? Yes. And I vote yes as well. Thanks, Ms. Curry.
may I ask one last question? When's the date it's supposed to, you may hear? Right.
It closes, the application period closed on October 13th. Somewhere after that. Okay.
Okay, next item is action related to a senior center donation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to accept the senior center donation as presented from Patricia Gill for $100.
Second. Three way to.
Wow.
That's appropriate. So I have a motion that has been seconded adequately. Any further discussion?
Just as we've said in the past, and it bears repeating, very appreciative of the support our senior center is getting from the community.
Every week.
Every week,
every
every time,
meeting,
every
every
time we have,
meeting,
yeah,
every
this is awesome.
meeting.
And I know the facility does get utilized by a lot of people.
The village
Thank
continues
you.
to support.
Thank you to the Hills.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to accept the senior center donation, how would you vote, Matt?
Yes.
Terry,
Yes,
Julie,
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And the last item on new business is discussion related to the draft fall town meeting warrant. Mr. Wallington.
So this fall town meeting, you have your draft warrant included in your packet. This one looks like it's gonna be a pretty busy fall town meeting. So I'll go through here and on the articles, if I may, and some of these, the board were to choose to keep them on or take them off, or however we want to proceed. For Article 1, if I could have Bob come up as well. For payment of late bills, this is a remaining street light bill of $5,896. I want to note we received an invoice after the budget was adopted that the town didn't receive. Don't want to say never because I don't want to go way back, but at least since I've worked for the town 5 years, that I don't recall the town receiving. So Bob did his best with his current budget to pay down as much as he could of that bill. So what we have left on that is $5,896. I have since received the updated bill from the light department. And if I can, Mr. Sozik, you want to just update the board?
Well, back in 23, the manager of the light department sent an email apologizing that it was his fault, a mistake for not letting us know about this bill that we did not budget for 23. So it was $14,000+. So halfway through the year, I paid half of it right out of my budget. And then I communicated with him and I told him I would see what I can do come the end of the fiscal year. And I was able to give him, it was another $1,200, I believe, which leaves us a balance of $5,800.
5,896.
Yeah. So before I went to Adam to put it on the fall town warrant, I got a hold of Mr. Driscoll to discuss it. And he brought it to his board of commissioners to see if it would be a forgiveness or maybe a small pilot. But the commissioners voted against it and would like to see it on the fall town warrant. we did budget it for FY 24.
Adam, how do you propose this is gonna be paid out of free cash?
That would be correct.
Thank you.
If the board were to choose to put on the warrant, that would be what I would do unless the board has a different suggestion. When we go to the next article, or
I see no reason not to, I mean, in my comment, is I see no reason not to.
I understand, but in terms of source, I don't have an idea right now.
Advisory had some good discussion on this.
And what I talked with the finance advisory,
Mm.
they're gonna probably be against this.
They had some
Article.
good discussion on it and some ideas themselves.
I mean, we'll require 9/10 vote.
I don't think there's any reason not to put it on the warrant and let the townspeople say yes or no to it, but
I didn't get a call, Mr. Driscoll, but is it for the street
I
light
agree with that.
electricity or for covers?
Streetlight.
What about covers too?
the actual electricity.
Each town building is now billed separately. For the town hall, DPW, senior center, they each get their own individual electrical bill, which I manage through my budget.
Well, we're not voting on this tonight, so there's still time to take a look.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll finish up drafting that Article 1. I just put it in as a placeholder, basically. Thanks, Bob. Article 2 fiscal year 2024 operating budget amendment, you have $15,000 for the town clerk due to the unexpected primary and election due to the vacancy for Senator Goby spot. That's something we didn't know about on the budget. And then we also have somebody filling in for an employee medical issue in the accounting office, so that's the 5,000. Any questions on this one? Okay.
No.
Okay, Article 3, Norfolk County Agricultural School tuition. I think we talked about this quite a bit, and Matt wrote you a very detailed educational liaison report. This is for the tuition portion, the 26,355. Once we learned after the budget was completed that the student got accepted. Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay, Article 4, Norfolk County Agricultural School transportation. This is the that meeting with the DESI and with the town, 41,400. This will be Article 4. We're expected to get, I believe off the top of my head, the commissioner told me 25 cents on the dollar for reimbursement.
Yeah.
So this will also be on the
We'll get
warrant.
something back.
So we'll get some of that back that we could put towards our revenues.
Right.
Any questions on this one? No. Article 5, the sewer admin building roof. This was given to me by the sewer superintendent for the sewer commissioners. $50,000 for the purposes of financing the design and oversight of the administrative building roof replacement at the wastewater treatment facility. And to meet said appropriation for 50,000 at the retained earnings.
They have a bid, and do they have enough in retained earnings right now?
Oh, yeah, their retained earnings, I think, was over 300K.
Okay.
Off the top of my head. Was that your question, Mr. Curry?
Sure.
Was that did you ask me another question? Okay.
I thought we had this, we had discussed this before, and we had a firm that had looked at this roof. They don't have.
That's correct. That's correct. We had Icon Architecture look.
Yep.
And they went, the sewer commissioners met with them, and then they met with I believe they looked in some other place. And then the last I heard, and then they came in with this, but they did meet with Icon Architecture, and I'm not sure if they got a quote from them. I believe they got a quote, but they may have went out for another one. I have to double check that.
I remember this in the past.
No, that's correct. Yeah. Article 6, this is the Adopt Mass General Law, Chapter 90, subsection 17C. This was a discussion we had. The police chief followed up with me on this one. Or we had, what was that?
Village Road.
Yes.
Brooks Village Road,
That's
yes.
So
exactly what it
people
was.
went to the planning board meeting, the first one.
Correct. So this
Wow.
one, the police chief reminded me,
Mhm.
then you followed up Terry in an email, so that's right here for this one. What
So
we
to
talked
the
about this.
shout out to the people on Brooks Village, is that okay?
Well, that's what we told them we would do, so.
Mhm.
Um,
This would be beneficial in other areas of town too, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
I'm selfishly thinking my own street. But yes,
any questions on this one?
no.
Thank you, Adam, for following
You're welcome.
through.
Article 7, amending the bylaws regarding snow and ice removal, water drainage. This was one that Terry was talking with me about and Bob and I spoke about. This one we're looking at, because right now the enforcements by the highway department doesn't make much sense, so.
Okay.
The highway department's not an enforcing agency, so we're looking at having the police department, enforce that.
Could be a problem in neighborhoods.
Correct. So after discussion, I felt that was adequate.
Thank you, Adam.
Any questions on this one? Okay. Article 8, amending the bylaws regarding science and enforcement. This was Mike Curry was going back and forth with town council on this. I remember, I believe it was at the annual. We did a portion of this of the bylaws and we left 2 of the sections for science and enforcement.
Placeholders, yep.
Placeholders, correct. So this
Oh, let me look at
and you
that.
could see in there, town council worked on this with Mike.
Oh, there was a,
Right, at the annual town meeting, we implemented the
Was the
Okay, let me-
flags.
the flags portion, right?
Yep.
Right, but the science portions was left reserved or whatever we call the section, we're not using it for this exact purpose.
Right, the signs and the enforcement, we put placeholders.
Right.
But we had specified that those additional sub chapters that were counted into the
can I
bylaw.
nitpick? Can I nitpick the wording on this one too?
How about if you just talk with
How
me?
about we
Yeah.
talk with,
Okay.
how about you talk with him separately and with Mike, because don't forget, Mike, Mike used.
There's
Like,
typos.
yeah, but then that's fine, but don't forget, Mike and town council had to go through this in order to get this wording right, so we want to make sure that, I know you're getting through typos, but let's just make sure that they're involved so that. We don't reword something so that would put us into jeopardy. That's all. you know? That's all.
Error.
I get what you're saying, but
Article 9, amending the bylaws regarding a revolving fund after the board authorized the intermunicipal agreement for
The
the
salt
brine, the salt brine production system. We're looking at adding that into as one of our revolving funds. Bob, if you wanted to come up and speak to this. Sorry. Through the chair.
Good evening, board. Revolving fund, that's gonna be between Templeton and Winchendon and Hubbardston.
I'm good. Yeah.
The reason for the revolving fund is because they're gonna be, other towns are gonna be paying into it as well as we're paying out of it for maintenance and purchasing the salt. It's a little different salt that we're gonna use to make the brine. It's a solar salt. It's cleaner salt.
Mhm.
It's not as dirty. So there's always gonna be money coming in and out between the 3 towns. So we need to have this revolving fund for that reason, for maintenance, purchasing and paying out if need to be.
Mr. Chair, through you.
Yes.
I know that for other revolving funds, for example, Parks and Rec, we had to accept another piece of like Massachusetts law in order to be able to establish the revolving fund. There's nothing else we have to accept here in order.
Good question. I was actually going to follow up on that. Bob's aware of it too.
Okay,
So when we went to town council, because we're doing it at a fall town meeting, it requires certification from the town accountant. We've already followed up with Kelly.
okay,
And that's a requirement by mass general law. So that's the only thing, because we're doing the fall. Well, let's get
if we
certified.
were doing it in annual, we wouldn't have to do that, but because we're doing it in the fall, it requires this accountant certificate.
And Kelly's already reached out to the Department of Revenue.
Okay,
A good question.
thank you.
And then any more questions on this one? Through the chair? No? The next one's to set the annual spending limit of the salt brine production system revolving fund. Mr. Souza came up with the 25,000. If you wanted to speak to that, how you came up to the 25,000 for the spending limit.
Well, like I said, we're gonna be each town. The average load of salts was $3,000 to $4,000 for a trailer load, so. In between the maintenance, it's a new machine, so. If down the road we need a new pump for parts, And it's the price of material and parts and everything else and labor, if it has a tech has to come out. We're able to have that room for expenditure.
So you're basing.
And I don't anticipate that being any more than 25,000 under that fund.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
so you're basing this on what your expected salt needs for Templeton, Hubbardston, and Winchendon are gonna be,
Right.
plus maintenance of the unit.
Operation, yeah,
Yeah, and you think 25K is a good enough number for that?
absolutely.
Okay. Wanted to make sure I was clear. Of course.
Do we have a warranty period on this new equipment?
Yes, they just picked up the machine the other day. I haven't got the paperwork yet. It does come with a warranty and it does come with training. And we're gonna meet next Thursday, set the tanks and figure out the piping and valves and get that ordered as well.
Very good.
Through the chair, any other questions? Okay, moving on to Article 11, this is Baldeville.
Okay, Mr. Chair. If I just a clarification on the revolving fund. Will cover the cost of salt. Is that gonna also help cover the cost of the increased water bill? Due to.
Yeah.
Fund is.
They'll be paying, when they pay water, they'll be paying into that fund and then we can pay. If need to be out of it to the correct department. The salt. It's pretty much coming out of the snow and ice budget, so we each gotta put $1,000 in the start. And that's how it's for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Moving on to Article 11, Baldeville School. When this went to town meeting, it was 3.08 plus or minus. What happened here, the developers are looking at going further on parcel 407 to go to that trestle, that to expand that open space area. So this is just to amend that vote to 3.45 plus or minus. This is after town council was talking with the developer's attorney and drafted this language up.
Town council's okay with this as a remediation for it. We just to vote it at a fall town meeting to amend the. previous
Correct.
annual.
And then they also reached out with our assessor's office on the value of the 35,000 for the parcel, which is different with the procurement. So that's been they working with them as well. Any questions on this one?
Mhm.
Okay. Article 12, this is a kind of an interesting one. Transfer control of Houghton Park. When Jackie in our office, she did a great job with it, and now it's been turned over to Graceland, who's doing good as well with the working on the grant for Houghton Park. We came across this kind of strange. Apparently Houghton Parks was issued to the select board for the purpose of a senior center. Really weird, bizarre. This is to move it to the Parks and Recreation Commission for the purpose of use as a recreational park, which should have been in the first place. So Candace is here if she wants to come up here. Candace, if you can.
Yeah, just.
Parks and Rec.
The grant for Houghton Park, we discovered that apparently back in the day. It might have been where they were gonna put the actual one, where now it ends up where it is. So they took it to the town floor and they voted, so we're just asking to put it back into the park, and put it in Parks and Rec. So that, we were getting a grant on to fix up all the park, so.
Interesting.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, yeah.
Big bets.
Do either of you two know which town meeting that was?
Jackie.
2006 is it?
2006.
Yeah, it's like 2006, yeah.
Hang on a second.
It was when they were doing
Manual.
the senior center. I guess they were gonna put it there or something. They changed their mind. We changed our mind.
I just wanted to know where it was, that's all.
Yeah, people can.
So I can look back at it.
If you look at the Worcester Registry of Deeds, you'll find a certificate in there and it states the select board back in 2006 voted to make it dedicated to the senior center. This is prior to the senior center being where it is now.
Right.
Yeah. It just looks like they changed locations and everybody forgot it was on the books to recorrect the problem. And so we will request the Parks and Rec would like to have it back so we can, make it where people are using it. I mean,
And this
it's
is
a
what,
park.
and this is also one of the conditions of the grant, that this has to get done
It
as
has to
well.
be fixed, otherwise it will affect our grant, so.
Yeah, because it's a recreation grant.
So, and they know that this happened, we told them, so they know, and
Mm.
as long as it's on the warrant. Hopefully the town's folks will vote to put it back in Parks and Rec. And, everything happens kind of like all together.
Anything? Anything, yeah?
We just need to make a quick amendment to reference Mass General Law, chapter 45, section 3, I believe. I'm working with the contact in the state on that, but aside from that, that's all.
Okay, so there may be further proposed language.
Yeah, just a
Okay.
reference to that.
Quick question through the chair. Transfer control, Houghton Park, or is this Heroes Park? I remember about a year and a half, 2 years ago, a lot of discussion on
It's
this.
gonna be ball.
So right now, because it's technically Houghton Park, but there's gonna be a section dedicated to Heroes Park. So your commission, when they submitted it, was Houghton Park. That would have been
Right,
correct.
that's correct, but the front end where the monuments are for the veterans. Us as the park commissioners, we have stated it in many of our meetings that we intend to have that called Heroes. A park or whatever, section, we want that to be called Heroes. For that reason, and we want the veterans input on it. And then we want the swing section, the back section, Houghton Park, in memory of that gentleman, and we wanna at some point do the ball field and redo that so that our little ones can play t-ball and we can have the softball. Cause it's a small, with the neighborhood and stuff, we feel like the smaller leagues, the little ones would be better suited in that park. So we basically want to bring that park into compliance for little ones. And have the veterans in the front with the heroes.
Very nice.
Thank you for that. The basis for my question, I know there is a memorial that's in storage somewhere.
Yeah, so someone just told me there's a memorial somewhere that should be going in that park. So someone finds it, we will love to put it in the park too.
Timing.
Yeah,
Yep.
Timing.
yeah.
I found it. The article, the town meeting that was referenced where this went, for the board's information. Warrant for the special town meeting, May 9, 2026, and this was Article 4.
2000 what?
2006, 2006.
Haven't drafted that one yet.
2026. What the heck? I'm awake. Yeah, it's Article 4 is where this was originally proposed and evidently voted.
Yeah,
So-
and then they just didn't put the senior center there.
Right.
Yeah,
Got it.
we just used the property.
Any further questions, Article 12?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
just,
Joe.
in regards to, the Heroes Park, or if it's gonna go to the Parks and Rec Commission, I believe over at, where River's Edge is, there was gonna be a veterans memorial thing there,
Mm.
and there was stuff collected,
Yes,
donations and things, and then they were gonna be used over there. Over at Houghton Park, if that ever came to fruition, are they gonna be now? Responsible, have control over that stuff?
for the
And
storage
does
of it.
anybody know how
Um,
much and where that stuff is?
I don't, the material for it.
So if I can,
Go
I'll
ahead.
follow up with Miss Prime, because at the time she was, it was under
She-
her under the community services wing.
Got it.
And I believe Jackie has a contact, and I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
Yeah, Parks
I
and
know
Rec.
there was stuff
Geez,
procured.
Yeah.
Yep.
we wanted to put everything into place the way it should be. It should be Heroes, so we want everything to go the way it needs to be.
But that piece had to be discovered first.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have one other question, and I'm looking at the article from that special town meeting that designated it. It says here that it was designated to the Narragansett Regional School District. Do we need to have them involved in order to get this back?
What?
I
No,
believe
it's
it-
the same.
There, wasn't there?
No, I believe it was transferred from the school
Yeah.
to
Oh, I'm sorry, from the school district
Correct.
this to the Board of Selectmen, so it's under our jurisdiction. I apologize, my fault, I misread it.
Anything
No, it's
further on Article 12?
Okay, thanks, Candace.
All right, welcome.
Great job.
Article 13, Royalston Road work, with this is our next one on the transportation improvement plan. Tim might, I know, was attending the meetings, he might have more information. I believe it's the next couple of years or so that Royalston Road's gonna be coming up. Believe at the top of my head, that's roughly at least 7 million plus from last time out when I attended one of their meetings. So right now we have the Rotary project, and then this one's the next one for the town. So this is the work that we need to get done. I already sent this off to the Massachusetts Department of Transportation as well. So this article will need to get done, because we're responsible for the right-of-way acquisition for this project.
See that point 26, that's on the tip sheets, right?
You remember? If
I
it's,
believe that's where it is. That tip sheet is a very living and
Yeah, yeah.
document, and this has been like an elevator, up and down, up and down. We
26,
changing our
27
position.
is what the proposed-
For now, it's in 26 and we'll, yeah.
I believe it is
We'll see where it
26 for
lands.
now, yes.
Okay.
I say 2 years, I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah.
But we'll have that at least for us to move forward on that project. Like I said, that's a $7 million plus project from what last I recalled. I could be off a little bit with that.
So will that be put in a fund or are you gonna use it right away? Cause if we're looking at 26, 27,
We're gonna have
prices
that,
are gonna go up.
we're gonna have that appropriated. I already have a quote I received. We also have another article for tax title work and appraisals for another, I believe, 16K.
Mhm.
So we should be okay with this amount.
Because this has to happen sooner than later because they need it before they put a shovel in the ground.
But
Yeah.
do you think the structure of the road's gonna further deteriorate and need extra work or?
I
Well,
bel-
further deteriorate, but I mean, we're
doing it.
just putting lipstick on it now, trying to hold it together and waiting this whole deal out. You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in engineering, you're not gonna back out now.
Right,
Yeah.
I just would like an accurate number.
Well, like I said, materials are going up, so the project's going up, so that's where it changes on the tips program. Like you say, like Tim, I go on meetings as much as I can. And everything gets moved around. This project ain't ready, so they move the projects around. That one that is ready or 100% completion. It's like a shovel
It's
board.
where, I know you're putting lipstick, so I'm putting lipstick on it.
And the
You
other
have to
thing,
do, you have to do this in sync with getting towards 100%. They don't want you to do it too early and you can't do it too late.
That's the thing, I was wondering about the timing and the condition of the road at the time.
the thing that's good about this particular one, because I've read a little bit about this one as well, is that this is not just a Band-Aid. This is like full reconstruction of the road.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the way it should be done.
There's some beautiful things happening in town,
Mhm.
Island and down by the Fish and Game. Oh, my goodness.
This is working through
The roads are
MRPC.
coming out really nice. Through MRPC. Sorry, Kim.
Through MRPC, we're on the liaison. We're not the only town this is being affected by, and there are another bunch of communities in similar situations. We're waiting to see what the governor is going to do with the release of additional funds that have yet to have been fully earmarked and appropriated. So fingers crossed, but we can cross our fingers and hold our breath all day long, but that doesn't get the work finished.
Right.
Any other discussion, Article 13?
Article 14, Vernon Street land acquisition. This actually was another interesting one. So as the board's aware, Terry and Matt attended the 1.35 million we were awarded for the CDBG funds for school Vernon Cottage Street.
Mhm.
And it came to our knowledge that there's a portion of the road on somebody's property. It's not significant. But we're gonna have to deal with that. It's just federal dollars and I don't know why it was paved that way. So I believe by talking with some of the folks working with Tie and Bond, at Tie and Bond, excuse me. But $5,000 should be enough to handle this. This one has more, it's more time sensitive, so I really had to get this on the fall town meeting warrant. We already put the CDBG grant administrator RFP out for that person. That's a specialty to really make sure that that project goes as very efficiently and effectively. And, you know, federal CDBG money, it's different. And it's a whole different specialty than just grant writing in general. I want to be clear. So that's why folks could see that on our page, and this will, let's get this straightened out.
Basically, we're buying this person's property because the road already is there.
Well, unless they want to gift it to us, or,
Right.
you know, there's other, it
Right.
says
There's other methods,
by
but this is
purchase, gift,
basically-
or eminent.
Basically what we have to do, yeah. Mhm.
So there's other, it gives us leeway.
Mhm.
And it grants the select board the authority, so town meeting is gonna give that to the board. And on the 5,000 under my direction. Any other questions on this one? Okay. Okay, I just received the Community Preservation Committee appropriations. They have 3 of them. I think at their last meeting, we separated them. I believe CPC would like us to separate them again. So they did approve the 750,000 for the Baldwinville School project.
Good.
Great news. The Houghton Park. 139, I want to say.
Is that the redo playground?
Redo playground over there, and then a master plan of 11,000.
Okay.
The only number I don't have at the top of my head is
This one
the,
right here. This is- I think-
oh, yes, what's the number, Terry? Thank you. So CPC approved, 137,434, the rehab. Houghton Park Playground. Thank you for that. So it was a little bit lower than 130.
37, okay.
So this will be, these are the 3 articles for the Community Preservation Committee. Board wants me to separate them. Are they okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so each one go up based on the merit of. Okay,
It's 750, 137.
434, and then 11,000.
What was the 11K for?
That's for the master plan for Houghton Park.
Got it.
So that'll also be Parks and Recreation who'll expend that?
Building grounds /
Building
Parks and
ground.
Recreation Commission.
So that'll be 15A, 15B, and 15C really. It'll just be numbered out.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll have to renumber all. of them.
Yeah.
Okay, Article 16 is the fiscal year 2024 capital special articles. Police vehicle that we held to the fall. This, the highway for additional Main Street Bridge design, this 30,000. It's 30,000 will actually end up saving us, from what the engineer's telling me, roughly 100,000 of construction costs.
Okay.
So they received some feedback from the state, and they provide us that information. The treasure collector tax title work, another 15,000. Building grounds, Baldwinville School caretaking. Hopefully this is the last one of 5,000. Scholarship committee, scholarships 4,000, and then select board Tent Pleasant sale 2,500. So that comes to be 125,250 for all those capital special articles.
Tax title work falls back to like the 68 project, right?
This is tax title for properties that don't pay their tax.
Okay, this is just general.
That's for the treasure collector.
Okay.
Correct.
And the 2,500 for the select board for the 10 Pleasant, that's the appraisal that we need, correct?
That's for the appraisal, the closing costs.
Yeah.
And then the letter of determination.
Okay.
Yeah. So that should be enough there.
Okay.
Moving up, any questions on this one? Okay. The Article 17, this is a deposit to the opiate stabilization account. The last town, I believe it's last town meeting. Geez, I've been to so many of them, it seems. We from that moving forward, all the money's going by the votes of town meetings going directly into this account. This is money we received prior that rolled into the general fund and a free cash that we need to appropriate directly to the opiate abatement stabilization fund. And that number came to be, and I double checked with the accountant, $7,416.39 that we'll put into that account.
Okay.
But this will be the last one of these you see, because all the money's going directly in there now.
Okay.
Any questions on that one? Okay. Article 18, and then this is deposits to your general fund stabilization OPEB accounts.
These numbers are gonna have to change a little bit.
There'll be, I'll have to type in the new formula that the board changed it to and see how those reflect, and
But these were based on the old numbers.
these are actually I put in at the new numbers.
Oh, okay. The ones that the one we originally proposed, but we amended, so you have to switch them anyways.
Correct. So I just put these in for now. That's why I have them highlighted.
Okay.
Because I put them in under my proposal, and if the board, however the board voted, I was gonna have them reflective of the policy.
So this will be tweaked.
Can I ask a question? So, when Jeff comes in and gives us a bunch of stuff during, citizen input, I write them down. I try and bring them, some of them to ground. So one of them we talked about tonight is the financial management policy, having the plan, having a plan. And I know that you were working, adjusting numbers or otherwise. What form does that plan normally take? Or do you have like a running spreadsheet that they use for planning? Is it a document? How have we communicated that plan in the past? Like what would, from Jeff's perspective of you're supposed to have a plan, what was the time you said?
It says upon certification, how I've done it in
right.
practice. Because we had pending policy change, I went to advisory, I was waiting on the final policy.
But to have the plan, got that part, but to have the plan, normally what mode does it take? Is it a spreadsheet that you have?
It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
With
All right.
formulas that I update.
Okay, and that helps in the form and the answer, but I am interested in that. Okay. All right, so these are gonna be variable based on what we talked about tonight. Anything else, Article 18? Article 19.
Article 19, if I remember the budget discussions, I believe at the time the sewer commissioners were thinking 1.5 million for the karate pump station. They're coming in for 2.2 million. So we'll say we have another debt authorization that the sewer department will have to cover. I mean, obviously it's a town, falls under the town, but yeah.
Right, but it's gonna come out of their receipts. They're gonna pay it out of their receipts.
I think that will look at this thing.
That's a $2.2 million one for
years capital.
Yep.
for karate apps sewer pumping station.
Okay. Any questions, 19?
No. This is one I got to, this one I should have been on I should have put on an earlier town meeting by a year ago, but in the time being, Bob's kind of opened that area up to allow the water to be flowing. This is a non-binding question. If the town will vote to recommend that articles be placed on a future town meeting warrant to discontinue the public way in the location of the former bridge on Stonebridge Road, to allow for the use of the free flowing stream and land in that location for recreational purposes. You folks are wondering why this is on there. The select board don't have the authority to discontinue a bridge. CPC has approached me and asked me what's going on with the funds that they put together for this. So I indicated that I would bring this to the town and have them make a decision.
Nice.
Makes sense.
So there'd be no crossing there anymore.
So if the town votes against this, then CPC could close their articles. I mean, I then will have to go in the direction that the town votes on this article.
Okay.
But I think it gives some clarity on the direction of that moving forward. And that's your warrant, for the fall town meetings.
There's any other feedback or questions? I've got a couple of other things I'd like to research.
Just one,
Collect those and-
when you were out on your sign policy, they
Oh,
wanted
yes.
me to wait. It's been, again, a matter of words,
Where are we?
second page.
Okay.
So, under the first paragraph, the last sentence, in the event of a dispute, decisions may be appealed, is that supposed to be may be appealed?
Yep.
And then under enforcements, violation and penalties, first paragraph, last sentence. Flag
Frag.
flag request approval or denial shall be not be further delegated, shall be not be.
Request approval or denial shall.
Okay, so
Get rid of the B.
get rid of the shall be not be, to
Yep.
shall be.
Yep.
So not be. Only two. Good job.
Okay.
And just for the public's knowledge. Matt is a whiz on his phone, so we went and looked up all the general laws and sections and they're good.
Yeah, and I didn't put this together in the vacuum. We had a lot of people coming in. We've had a lot of discussion about signs or otherwise. So of the people that have come in and voiced opinions for and against, I try to take a look at all of them. Town council and I have kind of gone back and forth a couple of times. And we did not want, some towns have pages long.
I've seen that. Jeff sent it forward from Hubbard.
Oh, yeah, and we started with that one and we look at others and we try to trim it down and make it understandable and useful.
Yeah. User friendly, really.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam, for sending
All right,
that.
yeah,
Good work
thanks.
so far.
Thanks for the review. All right, we are finished with new business. We're gonna go into old business. Julie asked for a scout hall update.
Good evening, board. Scholar Hall, as you guys voted on and decided that we would put Skull Hall out to bid to use up that $30,000 to make it near completion, except for the plumbing and electrical. So, as Adam was directed, Adam put it out to bid. We did get two bidders. One was 28, give or take, and one was over 60 grand, give or take. So we awarded the bid for Shed Construction for 28. And it was summertime, it was vacations and some communication gap. But we voted on to give them the contract, get them the contract, and for Shed Construction, has only been in business for a couple of years. He's also, I call him my general contractor for the town of Templeton, which he's treated us very well.
Yeah.
And is there in a pinch if I need him for emergency or otherwise. For Shed Construction being so young, he was unable to get a bond. And he tried a few insurance companies, and at that time, I was communicating with Adam, and Adam wanted to pull the plug, but a real decent individual and treating us right. I wanted to exhaust the limits and give him the benefit of the doubt. So he was trying to get bonds from other places and private bonds and checks and banks, but everybody says they like to see 5 years. So to this date, he's unable to get bonded. So we have a couple of options. You could check with the second bidder at the higher price and try to find a difference in that amount of 30,000+, whether it's CPC or ARPA money. But I would recommend you go out for a rebid. If this individual rebids again, it will not be within the bond price. It'll be under 25,000. 25,000 and up, you need a 50% bond. And I believe if it did go out to rebid, this individual is gonna rebid it, so can you save 30 grand, or do you wanna waste 30 grand? Or maybe get some other bidders within the ballpark? So it's a decision you guys gonna have to make. Keep in mind that, well, beginning of the summer, to finish the plumbing and electrical, we're eyeballing about 10 grand. So. I'd rather see the ARPA money used to finish that up and rebid it. Than. Ask for 40 or 50 from ARPA or whatever, it just. Seems foolish to spend that extra 30,000, especially when I need it.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
No.
Adam, you have something to add?
I do apologize for the delay. I did, Adam, but let me give him some time, because like I said, they are decent people and they treat us right. I did want to give him the opportunity to come forward, and I wish he did, but he's very sad that he couldn't, and he's working on his years being self-employed, and he'll get there, and he's willing, this is all new to him, the municipality, governmental. He's learning a lot from us, and he enjoys working for the town of Templeton.
So Bob and I went back and forth, and because I did want to go to the second bidder. I think that's the more appropriate route to go. My concerns, because under Mass General Law, Chapter 149, with purchasing, it's, excuse me, it's required that a 50% payment bond be done. I have concerns about going out to bid, so the bidder could come back with a lower number to avoid that. I do have some serious ethical concerns with that. And that's why if I would recommend, even though it does cost more, to go with the second bidder that did participate, and find the first bidder to be unresponsive relative to the requirements under Mass General Law. So that would be my recommendation. Bob and I went back and forth on this. I know he respects his contractor a lot. But I'm also your purchasing officer enough to give you what I believe is the ethical decision to make.
Yeah, and it's not the only thing, it's not like we have a list of like, oh, the only thing on there, so there's other opportunities for it, and that's part of the experience process of it, I am interested in pushing this project forward.
And we did have another bidder, so it's not like.
Yep.
That's still good is the next question.
That's why we with Julie putting on the agenda, having this discussion. Where the board directs me to go, I'll proceed forward, but I do have concerns about going out to bid again and having the guy bid lower to avoid a payment bond. I do,
that would
especially now it's aired publicly.
Yeah.
I would certainly encourage the board to go to the second bidder.
Is this,
If they will hold their price.
Yeah.
go ahead, Julie.
Mr. Chair, my only question would be, where would you look for extra funding to finish up this electrical work? I mean, we're talking, it's double what the first bidder presented.
I would do an ARPA proposal from me to the board.
Okay.
It requires board approval for the 50,000, so you get the electrical and plumbing done up, and then with that 30,000 in there as well. But for the difference, or roughly $50,000. I'll have to go through the numbers, Bob, to make sure that they're accurate. Because as much time has went past.
As lapsed, okay.
Would we have to put that in front of CPC?
No.
No.
Well,
This
what much is already obligated toward the project, which is CPC funds.
30,000.
We have 30 left, right?
I said CPC. I said the wrong committee. Capital improvements. Would we have to put it in front of capital improvements?
Scott's already been in front of
It's already been in front of
already
them?
been-
Okay,
Yeah,
ARPA comes direct to the board.
just making sure that we're
I know
dot our i's, cross our t's.
it just seems like,
it's much
at previous
appreciated.
meetings, people were concerned that we're just, gonna blow through that money. I know it's for a great cause, but we really don't have, to my knowledge, a definitive.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. The discussion for tonight on the up, just to get it. Just wanted an update on the project of a town building
Okay.
to be completed. The other subject Terry's referring to should be another meeting, another discussion, and
I understand what you're saying, but it's basically.
You know.
So there was a recommendation made by the town administrator after the update that we got, so
right,
we weren't bleeding into. Talking about the overall funding, however, I think at our next meeting, we need to bring this on. So we'll put this on the agenda item for next meeting.
Would you want me to put together an ARPA request as well, Mr. Chair?
If it, yes, as part of it, and then we'll slice it up and see what we can make work. I mean, that's really how that's the game plan to bring it home. The spend plan for the remaining funds.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on Scout Hall update? Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, we are up to board member comments. We do have, it is 8:40 and we still have an executive session that will take 20-30 minutes. So,
Mr. Chair,
yep, are you starting out?
if I could start out, that would be great. I have 2 items this week. First, I would like the chairman to consider moving citizens' input to the end of the agenda at future select board meetings. The reason I say this is that I'd like to see the town portion of what we need to get actions completed on and votes completed on, done in a timely manner, and then go from there. And then if we got citizen input at the end, we could all take notes and maybe consider putting some of those citizens' concerns or whatnot onto another agenda of a future meeting, so that while the citizen is here, they know what, you're coming up in 2 weeks to present or 4 weeks to present, you know what I mean? So
I do.
kind of gives people, it's just for the board to consider, obviously for the chairman to consider, because you do the agenda. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up was, I just have a small letter to write, to read, due to some recent activity during select board meetings that I can say has made myself very uncomfortable. So I will be requesting that the chair of the board add an agenda item for the next meeting, requesting adopting a code of conduct to govern ourselves. We are the elected leaders of our community, and this code will be for us. We may even have an opportunity to have a draft prepared for us by that meeting. I ask the chair, as well as the town administrator, if they could work to get this draft prepared. We are in a day today that town meeting has given us a significant bump in our stipend from years ago. We are held to a high standard, and to this code of conduct will hold us to that standard as we move forward. It is important that there be mutual respect amongst the members of this board, and we need to demonstrate that to the staff that works for us. We need an inclusive environment for all. Other cities and towns in Massachusetts have adopted such a code. I look forward to discussing this at a future meeting. Thank you. That would be it.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, other board comments?
Okay, no worries.
On behalf of Terry?
Well, Terry and I went up to the grand opening in Bridgewater for the developers of the Baldville School project. And I gotta say, when we first pulled into the event, pulled into the site, the first 6 words out of both of our mouths is, wow, this is beautiful. So, I mean, the quality of work that Jason Corbin, Matt Zeller did in Bridgewater, and to see all their work come to light and actually be there. They did a fabulous job of Bridgewater. I mean, you could see the work that was done, the improvements made to the building, the old school. It was empty since 1993. They did a fabulous job, and we're very fortunate to have such great developers working on a significant project for the town of Templeton. So I wanted to just add those words. We're very fortunate. Terry, I know you were very impressed when you went out there. And
Well received.
Mhm.
I think it means a lot for them. I don't know if you want to hear, they have the first state of the art. Energy efficient, their building isn't attached to the school, but this is the first in the state of the art energy efficient unit. They opened up the process to their citizens in May and it was full by August. The school was donated the land, they put a steampunk. They did the research, they put a steampunk artwork in memory of the McElwain family who were shoe manufacturers in the town. We got to meet their parents. One of the mothers said, when I saw the boiler room, I said, no way, that was Jason Corder's mother. I said, no way, this is happening. So it was a very proud moment. They, the town came out in strong numbers and they were very honored. There was a lot said. It was a beautiful, and people were so glad that they came. Ed Augustus, the new head that Maura Healy appointed, he was there. And he said that he likes to see towns commit to the project before he donates or gives his approval or money. So he, when he saw us there too, that spoke to him, and all their investors went out of their way to come in, not all of them, but for the most part, the majority, we have cards. They came out and they showed their appreciation, introduced themselves. And one of the women, DeWinter is her last name. I forget which, I think it was Life Initiative, Kristen, she said that we were talking about CHAPA in our affordable housing on Baldwinville. And she was so concerned that we had rights of first refusal and we couldn't afford it. She introduced me to this other woman who wrote, we're emailing, how we can figure out how we can figure out with the help of CHAPA, and she would put me in touch with people so that wouldn't happen in the future. We talked about how CPC started a fund. I think CPC of Candy, did they have 17,000 and did they decide to dissolve it, or what did they decide to do? I was watching that meeting, but I
can't remember.
yeah, that I thought they decided that it wasn't really. taking off.
I think we did.
So we're kind of
Yeah,
back
we
to
did.
square
We did
one with
dissolve it,
raising
sorry.
funds to keep those chapter 40B condos on Baldwinville in our town. So it was very productive. The tastefully done from the landscaping, everything was seemed luxurious. And even the school, they retained a lot of the doors, they incorporated the colors. Very well, paint was very well coordinated. The lighting was up to snuff for today's standards as far as renewable energy. They retained some of the old furniture and redid it and had that all scattered around.
then the parks.
Yeah, I have pictures on my phone. The parks are open to the public. So the playground for the kids, I only took half a picture because there was a mother in there already. Dogs were everywhere. They have a dog park. They have a pollinator garden.
Community room.
Just beautiful. And they very, very well done again.
Thanks for going.
They were very happy to see us.
Oh, yeah.
And, it just was I was taken back. I really am impressed with these developers.
We're gonna do it. Oh, I have it. They
Well,
emailed it, yeah.
Well, while I'm on the subject, there was a question that somebody raised. The government can't come in and put immigrants in this housing. This is totally different from what's going on in the hotels around the area and causing havoc in towns' budgets. This is a totally separate.
They have a
issue.
lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry.
For the housing stock. They
Right.
explained that to us as well.
Right, and I think our town going forward, this isn't gonna happen tomorrow. This is gonna happen 7 years from now. Or so, it's not gonna. What, well,
From the start.
from the start to the end, it took them 7 years to do Bridgewater is what I heard. So I'm saying, we need to move on it and then looking forward.
We're full steam ahead.
No, so.
I'll add mine to the minutes, Terry.
Yeah, we're Tim.
Okay,
I'm good. I have a couple quick things. I appreciate the feedback I've been getting from citizens around the community. A couple questions that have been raised since our last meeting. The Hemza Haven sign still stands on Baldwinville Road in front of the old shelter. The question was raised, when will it be coming down? I told them I would address that and try to get an answer. Hand in hand with that, many trees requiring attention, and Bob slid out of here because I did have some questions for him as tree warden. Also some foliage and growth that's impacting sidewalks, visibility at intersections, a couple of other things. So I just want to bring those to light, and so the folks who have raised the questions to me, understand that, yes, I am bringing them forward. And the last note I have, and as Mr. Bennett was speaking earlier about the possibility of an override, and something clicked as the maps fired. The city of Arlington, every 5 years, has a history of introducing an override to help boost their annual budget, which I found very interesting. Terry, I believe you were on one of those webinars with me when their financial planner was explaining, and I've got to go back and find that tape. And I'm thinking, wow, Arlington is a pretty affluent community, and if they can pull it off, why can't we?
And you were reaching out to him for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, and then it kind of fell by the wayside, but I'm gonna go dig back through my email threads and see what we have. That's all I have.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep.
I've got nothing. Okay. Good to go.
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, at this point,
May I make an FYI and ask for advice? Is it too late?
it's too late.
Okay.
What is it pertaining to? Do you want
You know
to
you
talk
have it.
afterwards?
One is the food pantry, just an FYI that the Templeton Lions also donate money regularly, just so the board is aware.
Yeah,
Keep in contact with them. And the other was question on how to pursue the maintenance of the gazebo. I don't know where to start with that.
yeah, I would email me.
Okay.
Me or Adam is the right way to start out with that. Yeah. MOU or otherwise, I think it's gonna be the right way forward, but that's how you can start that discussion about that.
Right.
Okay, yeah, of course. All right, before we adjourn for the evening, we are going to go into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law 3821A-2, strategy negotiations with non-union personnel. So I would address a motion, or I would ask for a motion to enter into executive session.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, we enter this executive session and we will only come back into the public session to close the general meeting.
That is correct.
Meeting tonight.
Thank you for that clarity. Yep, thank you for that clarification. Any further discussion? Okay, none heard on the motion to go into executive session, chapter 3821A-2. How do you vote, Nat?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Take a second to set the room.